Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, the recap of the men's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. We're doing it straight after the men's race. The women's race is ongoing, and it's in the thick of it, but the coverage doesn't start for another half an hour, more or less. So we thought we'd get stuck in to be upfront with you all. Not much to recap, frankly. I mean, you listened to the preview, and I think many of you maybe listened to the preview. You heard what would happen in the race, and then you took Saturday or Sunday and you spent it. I mean, some you don't have friends, but you spent it with your family or whatever in the sunshine, and maybe that was a good decision. The route's 257 k's long. Pogacar was the not heavy enough favourite, according to us, according to me and Mr. Narsen. And he came with a strong team of Sivakov, McNulty, Groschardt, and Novak, the Slovenian tractor. Ciccone, Baggioli, nice strong pairing from Trek and Schkelmoser, who's a bit banged up after crashing on Wednesday. Ben Healy deserved a result, and EF have been excellent the last month, I must say, as a whole team. They were the main contenders. And what was happening early doors, Benji?
Mate, I just got to get out of it. I got to get it out of my system
Benji,
before we even start. This was the most boring race I've seen all year, and it has been the case, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, over the last couple of years. And today we're going to try and dissect why that is the case. Because it's not just boring, it's also frustrating to watch. But hey, let's start off a joyful morning. We've got a joyful morning going into Liège-Bastogne-Liège. First frustrating point. We've got Maxime van Gils moaning about injury for the last week and a half now. He crashed in Amstel early in the Remco Evenepoel crash, said that he can't get out of the saddle without being in severe pain. He then shows up to Flèche Wallonne. His team signs him up for that race. He obviously doesn't perform in that race. Then towards this race, continued talking in the media about the injury. Why is he starting LBL? That makes no sense. If you sign a rider like Maxime van Gils, what's the point in potentially ruining him a little more by signing him up for Liège-Bastogne-Liège when he's clearly got an injury? Like, think about his long-term future, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, right?
Yeah, either he wanted to really race, but it didn't really sound like that, or they got no other options. I mean, in the end, Danny Martinez, I think, has podiumed this race before.
Yes.
Has he?
But he didn't have an injury.
Yeah. I mean, but like, if they need other options, he's fourth in this race before. But they got Martinez here in okay shape. But yeah, it's the Belgians, Benji. I think the press and them sometimes live in a little bit different world.
I am so confused. Van Eetveld, for example, at Lotto this week was talking about having I think it was a fracture in his foot. I'm not 100% sure. It's probably not the craziest fracture, but apparently he has no pain while riding on the bike. But to me, whenever I hear that a rider is riding with a fracture, I get frustrated. I'm sorry. And I'm obviously not a doctor, so in some cases, it's probably fine to ride with the fracture. And for example, in the case of Milan Fretin, he's been riding with a fracture for the last month and a half now. He then ends up winning a race. Like, with Van Gils, it's a different case. He's clearly in pain. He was looking like he was in tears after Flèche Wallonne because of the pain. So I think that's not done. I think that's not good employer etiquette from Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, and I want that to disappear from this sport. Anyway, back to the happy days. The happy days of the breakaway. We've got 3 riders from Wagner-Bazin. Cyril Dessal once again has been good recently. Yep. Meens and Renard Haquin. We've got Boulahouat and Retailleau for Total Energie. These guys are testing my French. We've got for Alpecin, and I had my Google Translate on, so my notes say from Tricht instead of van Tricht, because van is from in Dutch to English. Anyway, Le Beret for Arkea B&B Hotels, Lolan for UnoX Mobility, Camille Bonneux for Intermarché, Sepulveda for Lotto. Then we've got Jack Haig from Bahrain Victorious and Hannes Wilkes for Tudor Pro Cycling. So pretty large breakaway, but when I look at it, I'm like, okay, these are the teams I expect to be in the breakaway. And it still seems like a controllable breakaway considering LBL is so incredibly hard as a race. So attrition will get to these breakaway riders, and by the time we hit the middle part of the hills, half of these riders won't be there anymore. But then the action starts, and this is a team that I've been such a fan of this year, of their racing style, complete opposite of 2024. I was roasting them in 2024 for their tactics. Ineos Grenadiers do what they've been doing all year. They attack early. Tobias Vos, Bob Jungels, Ex-winner of the race, by the way, Bob Jungels, even though not necessarily in that form anymore. And it's a completely different race now, completely different era of cycling. They go on a duo mode behind the breakaway. Like, yes, there's a large chance this is a chasse patate. But at the end of the day, these riders know that if Ineos goes to La Redoute with Pogacar, with Remco Evenepoel, with the rest of the peloton, that they're probably not even fighting for the podium. So why not try to go early, risking 2 riders in the process with a potential off chance that you do something crazy? That is what a lot of other teams should be thinking. But then the frustration started, Patrick. And I want to throw it to you for that frustration, because I saw Ineos attacking. I was like, oh, awesome. Then look at the peloton. And who do I see pacing there?
Oh, it's Trek and EF were at the front and Quick Step. So it's like, you can't criticize every team for not jumping with Ineos. It is 99% chance a suicide move, whatever. And listen, you know, why isn't Visma sending one guy there? Why isn't Groupama sending one guy there? Why isn't Bahrain? I mean, they have a guy in the breakaway at least. Why aren't? But they're like, okay, but probably you're going to get controlled by UAE. You won't even make it past Redoute, and your race is completely over. That's one thing. It's another thing that other teams, so UAE don't react. Other teams start going crazy, controlling Ineos. It's like, do you think UAE's 25 million euro team here are going to bluff and let Tobias Foss ride away and win a monument? Do you think they're just going to not pace? It's not a Tour of the Alps Wednesday stage that we're watching, okay? Let Domen Novak pace. If Langen can't control it, let Grosschartner do it. You know why, Benji? You got to work from the back. If Pogacar's the strongest, right?
Yes.
But he also has a positioning advantage. And again, today's again about positioning. He was the strongest, but it makes it so much easier when you can always be in easy position saving energy, which is what happened in Flèche Wallonne because he entered Chirard first wheel with Grosschartner in front of him. Make him use up the domestiques early like Novak, because Sivakov and McNulty cannot position him.
Exactly. And to say it as simple as possible, you know that 99% of the peloton here has absolute zero chance, if this peloton hits La Redoute, the second last climb of the day, to follow the inevitable attack of Tadej Pogacar. Everyone and their dog. I don't even have a dog, and my dog knows that Pogacar will attack on La Redoute. Because he won't attack earlier after Amstel, we all know that, and he won't attack later, because after La Redoute, there's a chance that there's more riders around him than there are domestiques of him to control. So the ideal point to attack for him is La Redoute. We all know it's happening there. So 99% of the peloton, including EF, including Lil Trek. To be honest, I didn't even believe in Remco Evenepoel following Pogacar on La Redoute either before this race. Literally every other team should know that if they hit the bottom of La Redoute in the group with Tadej Pogacar, there's a more than 50% chance you have already lost the race.
Listen,
more.
I'm telling you, there are riders who did Redoute today as fast as Pogacar.
Yeah.
Okay, I might be making that up. I haven't checked Strava yet. But believe me.
Probably.
Seriously. But you know where those guys entered Redoute? Fucking nowhere. And I keep saying this every single podcast. Pogacar attacking is so smart. It's not just he's the best rider in the world. He's smarter than everybody else. Okay? He got the memo that on rolling gradients, you shouldn't sit third wheel because you don't get as good a draft. So when Novak's pulling, you can't see Pogacar from the moto camera. Other leaders are up there. He understands draft. He also knows the best time to attack because he doesn't want to do a hard attack. Jalla made him spike his watts. He paid for it. He wants to do the lowest peak possible to get separation. And the best way to do that is to, on the most technical moment entry into the race, on the first time it opens up, you go, and who's on his wheel? Beforehand, Jack Haig, who was in the early break, like his own domestiques who let the wheel go. If it's a peloton of 80, well then Remco's not on his wheel, Schemmo's not on his wheel, and so you get immediate separation, then you don't have to spike your watts. That's his plan. I've probably skipped a bit of the race, but...
Mate, skipped a bit of the race. The race skipped a bit of a race. Nothing happened in this race before La Redoute.
I think Bahrain tried to jump. So Bahrain had Haig in the break, and then they tried to jump on Stockau with Bilbao. They got controlled by the other teams, and then no one did anything.
And that control by the other teams, I do want to hit that home one more time. The way Little Trek controlled that early phase of the race, they were riding as if they believed that they could follow Pogacar on La Redoute. And that does not make sense to me. Because none of the riders were ever going to do that. And it's as simple as the way you said it. If you, as Little Trek, choose to control those attacks yourself, you're spending your domestiques, and you're making sure that UAE, your opponent for the victory, is not spending their domestiques. It's simple math. Like, you can break it down in simple maths if you want. And then the question arises in my head, did Little Trek ever ride for the victory here? And I pull it even further. Skelmo's won Amstel Gold Race, but not a single thing they did in that entire race showed a tactic that was racing for the victory. Maybe it's controversial, but they always ride for the podium.
He was riding for the podium with 800 meters to go. So, and then they lucked out because of Remco and ended up winning. But yeah, of course, a podium is a good result. A lot of teams would like a podium, so it is a bit tricky to then criticize. It's hard to criticize the team that is getting the team that's had the best spring so far outside of Alpecin and UAE.
I disagree with that. You can't criticize their tactics when
their
tactics
Pogacar
are riding
wins.
for the Little Trek here guarantees that Pogacar wins, and I don't like that because I believe that there was a chance that Little Trek could win this race before the race started, and they themselves made that impossible. The chance wasn't big. Let me make that clear. But there was a chance, and if they deny that, then that's loser mentality.
Yeah. Anyway, people didn't really try to jump. Geraint Thomas, the descent into Redoute was really scary. Geraint Thomas did a magic job riding. Pogacar finds his own way. He enters in front of all his domestiques in really good position. Mark Brenner was positioning Hirschi and Alaphilippe. He's been really good this season.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Marco Brenner, they should give more of a free roll, actually. And Pogacar, he basically sees that no other favourites on his wheel at the bottom of Redoute, surprised everybody, and just sort of waltzes to the front, and he goes. And of course, at this moment, if you're any other second-tier leader, if you follow, you end your race. And one guy did try to follow, Tom Pidcock, at the top of Redoute. He gets cooked later in this race, so he gets rolled.
I don't blame riders for not trying anymore on La Redoute because your race is lost anyway. I'm sorry, that's my opinion on there. By then, your race is basically lost. You have to depend on cooperation in Group 2, which is never going to work.
No. So Trek have two guys in the group, so basically the group is then behind Pidcock, Healy, Tullett, Schelmoser, Ciccone, and Alaphilippe. Trek don't work, and they start jumping, and then a group is created with Ciccone, Alaphilippe, Healy, and Pidcock. Pogacar rips the gap open, and the thing is, Pogacar, the gap's not that big on top of Redoute. He's also smart. The gap only has to be as big as it needs to be a gap, and then keep it at 10 seconds. Allow the Group 2 dynamics to happen, and then save your bullets, and just build the gap slowly from 10 seconds. He doesn't try to take it to 45 straight away. Why would you? And then you might kill yourself. He saves for Rochefoucauld.
And Pogacar didn't overextend, like you say, on La Redoute, which that's perfect. The factor that you mentioned, that you even mentioned that other riders could have ridden this climb, La Redoute, as fast as Pogacar, shows to me as well that he made sure to not overextend so that over the top he could keep it going and then put the nail in the coffin afterwards. And have we spoken about Remco Evenepoel at any point in this race? Well, that's kind of the fault of Soudal Quickstep in the Remco Evenepoel. Firstly, before this race started, everybody kind of knows that Remco's got a less than 50% chance to follow Pogacar if Pogacar goes on La Redoute. So if you then want to ride for the victory, which Soudal Quickstep should 100% be riding for the victory and not the podium before this race starts. There's no denying that, in my opinion. Then you can't wait until La Redoute. And they waited until La Redoute. They were in a terrible positioning at the foot. I'm talking P30, 35 after the descent of the Denier. So you're out of the race basically at that point because there's no way you can get to the front on the climb. That's 200 meters you're behind basically after that descent. You have to crawl that up. You won't have the energy to follow any attacks after that. That just takes you out of the race. And Remco Evenepoel from that point onwards in the race, to me, seemed like he wasn't necessarily physically completely empty, but definitely mentally done for. Because there was this moment, I think it was in maybe at the start of Rochefoucauld, I'm not 100% sure, on the Rochefoucauld, where he started dropping from the larger group behind Pogacar, maybe group 3 or something. And the sports commentators were like, oh, Remco stopped there. Remco didn't stop there. In my personal opinion, what happened there was Remco braked because he was mentally down because of what happened, because he didn't want a camera motor to keep recording him as he was dropping. That's my personal opinion. It looked like it. He kept on riding after he braked. That's the only thing I can think of. It definitely was not a mechanical.
No. And I think the fight in the hectic with poor team support just killed his race and him mentally in the run. Because Redoute's sketchy. The road surface terrible. It's fast. It's dangerous. Guys are taking big risks. You need rouleurs in front of you. Geraint Thomas, as I said, did a great job. Novak was there. EF, Sweeney, again. Harry Sweeney, excellent today. But Quickstep weren't really there as a unit. And Remco was in the washing machine and he never got out of it. And that was his race. It doesn't matter how good your legs are. If you start Redoute P80, it's over. That's what happened to Benoit because he had a mech and it's done. Pogacar rides away, wins Liège-Bastogne-Liège for the third time.
Yes, correct.
Third time. And his 7th win this year. So only stopped in Amstel Gold Race by Schjelmoser from completing the Ardennes Triple. I think he has a break now until the Dauphiné before the Tour de France, so he has a bit of a rest. And in the group behind, Ciccone and Healy broke away, which, to be honest, they were the two strongest. Pidcock, he just was empty on Rochefoucauld. He maybe worked too. Yeah, he invested a little bit more than maybe Ciccone. Healy invested a lot. He deserved to be there. And Ciccone and Healy went second and third, 7 seconds ahead of the group behind. Healy, he did the right thing because to be honest, a monument podium is a monument podium. And so you're going to lose the sprint to Ciccone anyway. Just pull full gas to not get caught from behind. Behind, Michael Matthews was there. And so Jayco were riding all out with Ben O'Connor and some other riders for Bling. Still, there was a lot of teams with multiple riders that didn't really pull. And in the end, it's Simone Velasco who comes fourth, who came eighth in GC or in Basque Country. He has a load of UCI points. That's more UCI points for Astana. Trek were 5-6 with Naes and Baggioli, so they were 2nd, 5th, and 6th. Martinez 7th, saving Bora. Laurence 8th. Peacock 9th, which is a good result after being ahead. And Paulus for EF 10th. Also, I think they'll be pretty happy with their day today.
I think so as well. And in my personal opinion, it's also nice to see a couple of youngsters break through in that top 15. It's a large group. We're talking about a group of 40 riders sprinting for P4. That's ridiculous. And that shows how passive the remains of this race were behind Pogacar, basically, behind Ciccone and Healy. And we do see some youngsters. Nice finishing top 5 in LBL is a good sign for the future. Then, for example, Laurent showing up there shows that he's more than a sprinter as well. I enjoy seeing that. Emil Verstringen, which is a young CX rider on Alpecin de Koning, really like seeing him finishing 14th at the age of, pretty sure he's 22 or 23.
Yeah, he is.
So, awesome to see. Van Eetveld with his fractured foot finishing top 70. I can't have this shit.
It's a huge group.
It's ridiculous. It's a giant group. And I am being critical to Little Trek in this podcast because I personally don't like a team that can win a race to choose to ride for the podium instead. But at the end of the day, they've had good results this classic season, but in my opinion, it's not because of their tactics. It's because of the conditions around it in the race.
Well, it is sort of like they have a plan. They're like, okay, when Pogacar goes, be passive, and then let the other guys burn themselves a little bit, and then start to work the group. And then create Group 3 syndrome from Group 2 syndrome.
Don't like it.
Yeah.
Loser's mentality, in my opinion.
It is. But they're still second.
Wow, congratulations, you're second. I don't give a fuck.
I agree with you. Yeah, like they have 5 riders who can anticipate, who are very, very fast at the finish. Obviously, Baggioli, Ciccone, Schkelmoser, and Nice. You can have any one of them in a group ahead and you'll be happy. So,
and you can't even say I hate Little Trek. Ciccone was my pick outside of Pogacar for this race. And he got second.
Remco the Sportster afterwards says, I already said you shouldn't expect everything from me. I'm not a robot. Everyone's had a whole winter. I've only been able to train properly for a month and a half. No, I'm not sick. It's like I said, it'll be day by day. I have to wait to see how it goes. These are also very long races of 6 hours. You have to maintain that. Again, it's one day at a time. I have to take advantage of a good day. I have to accept a bad day. I just have to keep working calmly. Fair enough. But then I would not control for Pogacar for the whole race, the last 2 races.
Yes, that's a good point.
Like we said, Benji, some people respect Pogacar not enough. Some respect him too much. There needs to be a healthy...
In what way?
Well, like, Trek don't believe you can beat Pogacar. Even after they beat him, they don't believe you can beat him. They don't.
And I disagree with that. I believe they can beat him if they try.
There's some...
The chance isn't big, but it exists.
Whereas like Quickstep and Remco, they're like, no, we're on his level, so we pull with Hilhelders with Nova. It's like,
yeah,
healthy fear is good in the middle. Healthy fear.
Who's the healthy fear? Because we need to point at someone here.
Ineos.
Yeah. What happened?
They look stupid. They look stupid in the end, but they're doing the rational thing.
Yeah. Because Ineos is a team that, at the end of the day, would have been nice if they ended up top 5 in the race. But
they still have Laurence to sprint at the end.
Yeah.
It costs him nothing.
They hedged their bets. If anything, it might have helped Laurence a little bit.
The alternative is Redoute, Foss, and Jungels. You never see them again. So, like, yeah, it's right. Anyway, maybe we'll see it in Lombardia, Benji. Maybe this is the reminder. But we've got...
Mate, everyone will have forgotten anything that happened in LBL by the time Lombardia hits. The way these monuments are spread out, Luc Grefte, our producer of the podcast, made it very clear on Twitter as well, and I fully agree with his point that we're in April, 4 of the 5 monuments are done for. Yes, we haven't had Grand Tours yet, but I would like to see the monuments a bit more spread out throughout the season of cycling, and I know that's a tradition, but I think it's
like Luke said on Twitter, you have Roubaix in autumn, surrounded by GP Denain, Bretagne Classic, Paris Tour.
Yeah.
It'd be beautiful. And anyway, that was the men's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Pogacar continues his run, and he's going even almost better results-wise than last year, although he's not doing the Giro this year, of course. So, we'll see. We've got, but we got to go watch the women's Liège-Bastogne-Liège, which we'll recap on YouTube straight after this. So you'll hear that afterwards on Pod Players Now.